So recently, I was sitting with a client who God had shown me didn't want to be here anymore. She was living in a place of deep struggle. I'll say despair and depression were on board with her as well. And the thing that came through loud and clear that I spoke out loud to her was God said to me, I need her here. She is needed. And so I was like, you are meant to be here. Your life is of value. And, overwhelmed with emotion, both of us. I saying the words, her receiving the words, both of us moved to tears, to a place of, wow, what just happened? Just brought me to a remembrance of what it is that I'm doing in this world and why it matters. So welcome to this brand new Messages from Heaven podcast. Yes, if you've been here before, you know that the podcast has undergone some changes, that we began as Angels Don't Lie, we shifted to Unconditionally Loved, and now we're landing here with Messages from Heaven. I'm a gal who ebbs and flows with the energy of the divine, and when I first began the Angels Don't Lie podcast in 2016, I was in a really groovy place in my life. I was working with clients. I was doing my dream work. I had just opened up a beautiful healing center, and I just loved sharing all of the words from heaven. And as time moved on, I felt like I had grown, and in that growth, it brought me to that place of the Unconditionally Loved podcast name. And that had a great season as well. But a season that I still was like uncertain of where I was landing with this next iteration of my work. Like what was God really asking of me? And so I feel like this is the place that I'm meant to be. Like loud and clear, it's the messages from heaven that make the difference in the people's lives that I come across. When I receive something in my body, when that impression comes in, I know it's for the greater good. I know that it's not just for that person, that it has some miracle energy that's going to change the lives of that person, of the person they share that message with, of the person I share the message with outside. If I go home and I talk with my husband, if I go home and I call someone a mentor or another person who I know is going to need to hear it, if I bring it into my Soul Shine group and the women, they absorb it, I know that that message starts to have a life of it, and it starts to have movement and starts to heal things that are inside of us that are ready to be healed. So that's why I wanted to start today's very first episode with talking about my client who came to a session, and I saw this place of being on the edge of life on her. My whole body was like filled with this sadness, with this energy, with this density. And I have known despair in my own way, in my own storyline. And hers was so big and so massive that we needed to shake it up. God was like, you need to move this energy. Please tell her she's needed. Please tell her these things. So here's what I love to tell people is we come into an experience and we come in with a want. We want to hear from a departed loved one. We want to get that specific message. We want the guidance that's going to really help us to do the thing in this life that we want to do. We want to know. And when we come in, God, He gives us what we need first. He gives us something that is so tangible and so yummy, that's so unbelievable, that our want then starts to have an energy to it. Our want then actually becomes a possibility instead of just something that seems impossible for us. So with this particular woman who was on the edge of life, and if you understand this, if you know this, please lean in with me. Please know you're meant to hear this. You're meant to know that God wants you here for a very specific reason. And as painful as life is, there was some validation that she needed to hear. There were some things she needed to understand as we continued on our journey of the reading of the experiences. So the first thing was she was meant to be here. The second thing came in is God wanted to validate where she was. He wanted to validate what she had been through, the trauma, the experiences in her childhood, the innocence that was taken from her, the pain that she felt in her body because she felt responsible for what violations happened to her. She felt like she had done something wrong. And then she learned to believe that she had to hold it within and nobody would hear her story. Nobody would hear the story and think it was real or true. So she started to feel devalued. She started to feel unworthy of having anyone look at her with possibility, with hope, with love, with loyalty. So relationships crumbled, friendships crumbled, family members and relationship personal started to crumble, jobs started to crumble, and things seemed really, really hard. And yes, she tried. She did some things, like we do. We went to therapy. She's done the things. She's like, nothing works. She was in a place of nothing works. And maybe you too can understand that. I know there were times in my life that I felt like nothing was going to change. Like this was how it was always going to be. And the shakeup is, it actually is a lie. Fear wants us to believe that we have no power. Fear wants us to believe that we don't have a say, that we can dream these things, but they're not real, and that we can't have them for whatever reason. Like it happens for everybody else. Everybody else seems to be enjoying life and having all the groovy things, but nope, not for me over here, because good things don't happen here. So that's the lie. It's the lie. It's the lie. And the truth is, when we started to unravel one lie at a time, we could see the semblance of love together. Together, we went through this experience of unraveling the untruths and inserting God's word there, of the promise of what actually is. So here's the thing. Our circumstances can dictate how we show up in life. Our circumstances can dictate the energy that we choose to be in. We can choose to be defeated. We can choose to be in the place that fear says we need to be. And fear will use all of our past experiences against us. Fear will want us to feel lonely and isolated and that we're just never going to get out of it. Fear will lock us into that circumstance so that we don't have hope. But when we learn to put God over that circumstance, when we learn, and when I say put God, we put the prayer, we put life over our circumstance. We understand that we get to pray and we get to experience what's happening in our life for a very important reason. And that important reason isn't so that we are imprisoned by it. That very important reason is that our soul has come into this life to have this experience so that we can heal not only our own wound, but then we heal a bond, a hold that was in our ancestry, that was in our lineage. And that goes backward and forward because it no longer passes on. So it stops, it ends with you when you realize I get to experience this so that it doesn't continue on. So that the things that she wasn't seeing is that she hadn't passed on that childhood trauma to her family, that she hadn't passed on the abuse and the verbal. She hadn't seen the power that she had changed her life in ways because she was attached to what hadn't happened in her childhood that she thought needed to happen. She was holding and beholden to the pain instead of the promise. So here's the big nugget. And the big nugget is we're here to have experiences. And some of them are really shitty. Some of them are really hard. Darling, I know that it can be really hard. And I also know that the things that you feel may be breaking you are actually the things that are cracking you open where more love is coming in. Where it is possible that God can fill that space with so much love and provide you with so much bounty that you move away from looking at it all the time. So in my session, we were able to go really deep within this, 60 minutes that we sat together, really deep, and really go into the untangling of how fear had wrapped itself around different areas of her life so that there was a semblance of freedom and a choice to be made. And that choice was choose love or choose fear. And it's pretty simple for me. And I wrote about this in my first book, The God Is You. I talked a lot about that ego schmigo, how fear will hold us into a storyline of the past. Fear, when we look at it, it's always in the back. It's never forward. And what I mean by that, you're going to look backwards. You're going to look at the timeline. You're going to look at the people. You're going to look at the experiences, and you're going to replay them. And you are going to be beholden to those stories. And there is no promise there because nothing can be rewritten in the past. But when we look to love, when we have love as the forward, when we have in the present moment the divine, the holy, and we are able to pray, what we do have is hope. We have our faith. We have possibility. So if fear has taken a hold over you and has held you into a storyline that isn't serving you, and only you know this, right? You know what isn't serving you anymore, and you are seeing more and more and more of the negative show up in your life, and you have plenty of proof of what's wrong and not a lot of hope for what could be. This is your push. This is your sign that God is speaking to you. He's saying right now, choose me, choose love. I've got you. Remember what I said. Do not fear, for I am your God. I am here. You were created in my likeness. You have the ability to say, fear, go. Not today. Turn around. Get out. You have a choice. And the choice is, how do we see the situation? Now, the thing is that what I've learned even since writing my first book, The God Is You, is how dedicated fear is to wanting to screw up our lives. How dedicated it is to coming after us and wanting us to be undone, really unraveled. And God, every single time I've surrendered, every single time I have brought that pain into the light by speaking it out loud, I have unwound something that was entangled within. So this is the thing that I've done. It's easy. I've gone to the mirror when something rises in me, some lie, some storyline that I have been listening to behind the scenes for a very long time. I go to the mirror. And in the mirror, I speak the words out loud. And when I speak the words out loud, I can reflect and look at myself, and I can see that this isn't a love tone. I can see that this isn't a promise. I can actually visualize my whole face and my whole body take on a different energy. And I'm like, right, here it is. Here's how fear had a stronghold, and it can't live here anymore. It cannot live where I place God. It cannot live where there is hope and praise. And so I get it out, and then it is gone. It has no power over me. Once it's on the outside, by speaking it out, it has no hold in you. So that's the power of speaking what you are thinking out of your body and recognizing, is this love or is this fear? Is this going to propel me forward? Is this going to help another? Is this going to be supportive? Does this have life to it, or is this speaking death? And you will be able to see the power of God once you get it out of your body and feel the freedom. And this is the other part, is like how it feels to get it out of your body is like, whoa. So in our session with my client, we did this in real time. And then I had her move her body, because when we move our body, after we speak a lie out loud, we then can move the energetics of that stuck energy so that we are replacing it with love. We are putting possibility back into the place where that lie existed, where that untruth, that denial of love, whatever we want to call it, whatever that space is within us, all of a sudden it's like, what? And so that's where we're cracked open. And that's where we feel really raw. We feel like somebody's seeing something, a part of us, and it's so uncomfortable. And that's how my client felt at first. She was like, I just could see it on her. She felt so vulnerable. And, she's crying and she's like, I don't know if I can do this. And I'm like, we don't have to do anything. We don't have to do anything. We could sit here, but God wants you to receive something. So if you feel like you are ready, here's this soul from heaven who wants to come in and help you. And here's this guidance from your angels. And she was receptive, even though there was resistance. She was receptive, even though it was really hard. And by the end of our time together, her whole body had changed. Her whole light had changed. She had come back into herself. And I see this so often, where we have the trauma being the first thing that people see. And I see people walking around and it's like they're not all the way in their body. They're not all the way present because this pain, this beholden thing is really holding them to that old version. And so they can't even bust out. And that is a really uncomfortable feeling, to know that there's this higher version of you that wants to come on board, and it confuses you. And it's like, wait a minute, I feel that, but I'm not seeing that. And then we deny it and we poo-poo it and we push it away. But here's the thing. If you feel it, I want you to lean in with her or him. I want you to lean in with that part of you that seems maybe like it's impossible, and start having a conversation with yourself in the way that this could be possible because God is so great. Because God is so great, I got to have those experiences. And it is through those experiences that it's bringing me to this realization that I can look at this in a different way. I can choose to see this in a frequency of love. I can choose to see, is there a blessing here for me, even through all that pain, even through all that hard, even through all those experiences. Show me the love, God. Show me. Lead me, guide me, show me, infuse me, because I know that your promise for my soul is great. And I'm ready for that great. I'm ready. I'm ready for you to have that great today, to praise your life, to praise yourself in the way that God praises you, because he said your name was written in the stars. I wrote your name before you were born, and you are meant to be here. You are meant to be here, my love. I hope this message lands in your heart and that it serves you, and that you remember, that you really remember that you are loved. I hope you have a really beautiful day. Thank you for joining me for this first episode. Please be sure to leave me a comment below. Let me know what landed in your heart, and share this with a friend, because sharing is caring. God bless you.